I mean, Douglas is, I don't know if Douglas could be any nationality other than English. You know, he doesn't say what he thinks. He's very concerned with how things appear. He's very self-deprecating. He's not boastful. He's not necessarily always honest. He's not very good at expressing love. Connie is much more outspoken, much more outrageous, much more popular, much more sociable, much more open-minded. And Albie, in many ways, to begin with anyway, is a very typical teenager, you know, very self-absorbed, very moody, very aggressive towards his father. I mean, I wanted to write also about parenthood and about how often a child has an allegiance to one parent and not the other, and that can be very painful. So Albie and his mother are completely bonded, completely close, and poor old Douglas is slightly on the outside. Well, I wanted to write a character who doesn't express himself and yet who's full of passion and love and a kind of heroism, but on the outside appears very, very boring and conservative and cautious and, you know, neurotic. And I liked the idea of an unconventional hero. And I also wanted to write someone who loved his wife. You know, the cliche about middle-aged men is that they're looking for an affair or they're looking for an escape. And I wanted to write about someone who absolutely doesn't want an escape. But for him not to be annoying, he needed to be funny. And even though the subject matter of the novel is quite dark and sad, he is funny enough and self-mocking enough to be enjoyable company. I'm somewhere in the middle, I think. I think, you know, when you're a kid, you think, I'm never going to be this kind of parent, you know, I'm never going to have all these rules, I'm never going to have this timetable, all these restrictions, I'm going to be incredibly open and free. And then you become a parent and you find yourself saying, you know, eat your vegetables, go to bed, do your homework, you know. And it's not an expression of dullness, you know, it's not conservatism, it's care, it's caution, it's love expressed as caution. So I alternate between the two, you know, I try not to be dull, but neither am I completely carefree about it. You know, I worry and I fret and I try and be disciplined as well. It's, yes, somewhere in the middle. Well, Connie is, I mean, I love Connie, but she does behave quite badly at times. You know, she's very irresponsible sometimes. She's quite mean to Douglas. She's clearly, you know, devoted to her son, but not quite so devoted to Douglas, and sometimes they kind of gang up on him. But I think that's okay. For me, one of the problems with a lot of love stories is they're very concerned with likability and charm and the reader or the viewer falling in love with the characters. And I think it's okay for the characters to be a little gritty, to be a little tough in places, to be a little unlikable at times. Everyone has their reasons for the way they behave, and Connie, yeah, she isn't always very kind, but she's also vivacious and full of life and open-minded, and you know, she has terrific good qualities as well. Well, you know, I thought a lot about this. I think perhaps the particular problem with fathers and sons is that you want to see yourself reflected in your child in a very direct way with the son. You want to see your influence. You know, you kind of want a son to be a reflection of you, and that isn't quite so direct perhaps with a daughter. I think observing the father-daughter relationships I know, they tend to be a little warmer, a little less complicated, a little more affectionate and loving. I don't know anyone, perhaps there are people who have good, easy relationships with their fathers, but I think father-son relationships have a particular tension in them. I think probably the relationship wouldn't have lasted. I think having having Albie is sort of something that holds them together, and also this isn't revealing anything because it's in the very opening pages. But Connie and Douglas have a child who dies. They've been through this experience of grief together, and that has become a kind of bond between them. And in the course of the novel, you realise how terrible though that event is, how it becomes a kind of a link. I mean, I shouldn't say too much about it. Yeah. No, I think you know, that cliche, let's stay together for the kids, there's an element of truth in that, in this relationship. Which isn't to say they don't love each other or it isn't a good marriage, but it's the sudden absence of the child that causes the crisis.